Hello, thanks for joining us this morning on the Household with Faith Daily Devotionals. We're focusing again on time management, continuing on with this series. And I'd like to talk to you today about the difference between planning and preparing your time and scheduling your time. We think about things like this. Now, if you haven't gotten our sheet on scheduling sheet for your time management, then please download it. I'm going to provide the um, docs or sheets. I'm sorry, the sheet link for you to go to, and you can tweak it any way that you need to. You're free to download it, and all you have to do is make a copy of it, and then you can save it, add in whatever you want to add for it. Now, let's just say here is what I consider a schedule. You wake up at say 6 a.m. and when you wake up, whatever, whether you make coffee, whether you get breakfast, whether you walk your dog, whether you take a shower or whatever, when you learn the first rule in time management is to write all of that stuff down. Just make a list of all the stuff that you do and try and be as precise as possible. You say, I don't know about that. Well, just as you do things during the day, this is your routine. Most people have a routine that they do uh, from the time they get up in the morning throughout their day, and then they end their day. And some people get up at one time and they go to bed at the same time every night. And all those things in between. They have dinner, or lunch, or whatever. If you work, you have to be at work at a certain amount of time and take a break at a certain time and things like that. So scheduling is something that is very possible. And is scheduling a factor in time management? Yes. So initially, what you want to do is you want to write down your basic schedule. And I'm not saying that if you get up at 6, you have to be in the shower by 6:15 to 6:30. I'm not saying that. It's just that you get up at 6, you have to be at work at 8, and you have lunch at 11:15 to 11:45, and your breaks or whatever, and your dinner. You get off work and you have you get home by XX time, unless you have to stop along the way, and you have dinner and so forth. That's what I'm talking about. That's your basic, your daily schedule. You do want to write that down first. You want to put that in because those are things that are absolute. You do get up at this time, you do go to bed at this time. You may stay up later sometime because there's some show or whatever on, and we'll deal with that as time progresses. But you want to make your schedule as accurate as possible. Then, once you've gotten your schedule in place, then you can start filling in the other things. Like, what do you do on your lunch? Um, what do you do on your breaks? Do you stop on, you have this drive time home, from this amount of time. Say you get off work at, 5, and from 5 to, 5:45, you're in the car. So that's your drive home time. Just like going to work, you have your go. Then you start to filling in these other things, and you don't focus on what you're actually doing. Just this is the time, so you want to initially account for your time throughout the day. He's like, well, why? Well, what does it matter? Because when you get through with the things that you have to do in order to live, as a human being on this earth, um, that's what you want to do. You want to put that in there first, and then you're going to go and you're going to start filling in when you go shopping, when you're on the phone, and things like that. You're going to start filling those things in, and the conversations that you have. You know, for most people who have cell phones, it tells you how long the call lasts. When you have cordless phone, it tells you how long you were on that call. So talk to my sister for, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, made some phone calls. You can just make phone calls or whatever. Sometimes you're just doing that. Some people make their calls while they're in the car and things like that. So when you start looking at time management, you want to start looking at what you're spending most of your time on. And I don't mean work. I mean, outside of those hours that you have to give someone that is paying you, I mean, sorry, on your job, not that. Because if you don't work, what are you doing around the day? And I mean, if you don't have a job, and there's no reflection because this is your own personal thing. This is your own personal life. Nobody's judging you. Nobody's saying this, or that. If you'd like to take naps, what time did you nap? How long did you nap? Do you do this every day? These are the things that you want to start accounting for, so that because a lot of people say, "Well, I don't have time to read. I really don't have time to pray. I pray in the car or whatever." And there's nothing wrong with praying in the car. There's nothing wrong with throwing a CD, a Bible on CD, or listen to an app on your phone while you're in the car, in the shower, or wherever, while you're cooking. There's nothing wrong with that. But you do want to start accounting for that time so that you say that you need more time to do this, or that, and you don't have the time, but don't you really have the time? Once you start looking at how much time you're spending doing one thing or another, then you'll find that you do have time. This one, this particular devotional is going over our 5 minutes. It's probably going to be about a 10-minute one because it takes some explaining and there's a lot to cover. Planning, once you have the schedule down, then you can start planning things in your day. You can start putting them in your daily schedule. And you can, once you have planned for that, then you can begin to prepare for that. Your schedule, your plan, and then your preparation. That's how it goes. If you don't prepare for something that's not scheduled, you know it's going to happen. And people say, well, yes, you can. You can prepare for it, but when are you going to put it in? Are you going to put what time? How are you going to do that? If you don't know what your schedule is, how can you prepare to do something, to take on a new responsibility? How can you plan for it if you don't know if you have the time to do it? So when you start scheduling, writing down your schedule, you have the information readily available, then you can decide, I like to watch Jimmy Fallon every night. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, so that's something that you have scheduled. That's just something that you plan to do. That's the last thing that you do before bed. That's nothing wrong for that. But what are you doing earlier than that? Where can you find this hour a day that you need? Now, we're just going to say an hour. Where can you find this hour throughout the day that you need? If you don't want to give up Jimmy Fallon, I'm not mad at you for not wanting to give him up. But if there's something else that you're doing, that if you're on the phone, every night, or if you're watching, the TV's just on and you're just kind of watching it because you're waiting for something else to come on, then, or you're channel surfing, there's always some time. There's always some time during the day that's not really allotted for something else that you can give up on. And that's what you'll need to find because after all, you're the one who's saying that you need to do this. You're the one who's saying that you need to find time or you don't have time. It could be spending time with your family. It could be spending time in the prayer, in the word, all of these different things, but whatever it is that you need to do. We are talking primarily through this series. We've been talking about finding and finding time, making time to spend with God, preparing yourself because we're preparing for eternity. That's the most important thing. Nothing is more important than our preparing for eternity. And that's what we need to be focusing on. Because if you focus on God's business, the rest of it will fall into place a lot more easy. I hope this has been encouraging to you and informative. Like I said before, I've learned a lot about time management over the years, and I know how to look at my time during the day and know when I'm goofing off and not doing what I really need to be doing. And I know that there are times when the time seems to be redeemed, and it's like I'm spending the same amount of time and I've got so much more done. So when I really focus my attention on the Lord, I find that I can get a lot more done in the same 4-hour time span than normally. So I hope this has encouraged you. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.